Coming up, Jonathan and Todd go looking for an octopus and end up with a shark? Welcome to Jonathan Bird's Blue World.
The Pacific Northwest offers some of the best cold water diving in the world. The waters of Puget Sound are both naturally beautiful and full of marine life. Puget Sound, located in the northwest portion of Washington state, consists of a complex web of protected waterways and fjords connected to the Pacific Ocean. Due to the large tidal changes, these waters flow strongly back and forth several times a day, feeding a large population of marine life. In the Hood Canal, a narrow, isolated portion of Puget Sound, divers love a dive site known as Flagpole. It has a reputation as a perfect place to find and film the giant Pacific Octopus. Cameraman Todd and I have joined our friend Ed Capel, who dives here all the time. We're shore diving from the backyard of Ed's friend Mark, graciously hosting us for a few days. Because of the strong currents, we can only dive at slack tide, and that only happens twice a day. So, to make the most of our time, we're using our Dive Talk Go rebreathers for extended dive profiles. The beach is about 100 yards from the dive site, so we swim over using a compass for navigation. I've never been very good at underwater navigation, so we let Ed lead the way. After swimming for a couple of minutes, we arrive at a huge pile of boulders, like a seamount. At the top, there's a mooring for dive boats. The rocks are covered in gigantic plumose anemones. They're about 2 feet tall, but they can reach a meter tall, making this one of the largest, if not the largest, anemone in the world. There are all kinds of animals living in and on the rocks, like a spider crab. This is home to a dozen different Pacific wolffish. These long, skinny fish are known locally as wolf eels, but they're not actually eels in spite of their appearance. Finally, we find one of the giant Pacific octopus for which this dive site is famous. But I can tell right away that she's not going to come out and play with us. That's because she's tending a large clutch of eggs. Giant Pacific octopuses only lay eggs once in their lives, and they guard these eggs full time until they hatch. She spends up to 6 months protecting the eggs without leaving her den to eat. She oxygenates them by blowing water around them, and since she can't leave to eat, she slowly starves. Since the octopus isn't going to come out, Todd and I are going to need to find something else interesting to film. Fortunately, we don't have to wait long. A chimera swims right up to me. Commonly known as a ratfish, chimeras are cartilaginous fish like sharks. In fact, they share a common ancestor with modern sharks 400 million years ago. These little guys have been swimming around in the ocean for a long time. And, unlike a shark, they swim with their pectoral fins, not their tail. Normally, chimeras prefer extremely deep water, living more than 2,000 feet beneath the surface. But they often swim into the shallow waters of Puget Sound to feed on crabs and clams. Suddenly, I see movement behind my subject and look up to see a 6-gill shark moving in on me rapidly. It's the first time I've ever seen a six-gill, and I can't believe my luck. Six-gill sharks get their name from exactly what you might expect. They have 6 gill slits. This is unusual because most sharks have only 5. I want to film this incredibly rare shark for as long as possible, but it seems she only wanted to give us a quick look and move on, probably looking for food. Even though she's moving slowly for a shark, it's still fast for a scuba diver, so eventually she easily swims away from me. So that was interesting.
That was, yeah.
I was shooting mackerel over ratfish and I heard,
and that was me saying, hey, look at that big 6-7 foot 6-gill shark coming your way.
I looked up and it was coming right at me and I was like, whoa!
He was right on top of you. He like came right for your camera, like he wanted to be taken, have his photograph there.
That was cool.
Yeah,
that was really cool. Very unexpected.
Very unexpected.
We're looking for an octopus and we find a shark. We got a hot tip from our local diver friends, Sean and Militia, that if we wanted to film some six-gills, there's a dive site known for them. We head over to the town of Des Moines, where we find Redondo Beach, a favorite local shore dive.
So here at Redondo Beach, they have kind of a famous thing, which is that it's one of the only places in the world where six-gill sharks are known to come into diveable depths. So it's a really deep water shark, but for whatever reason, they show up here and they come up to like 100 feet, which is shallow for them. Mostly at night. So we're gonna do a night evening dive here, see if we can find some six-gills.
We meet up with local divers Atina Tan and Kelly Davis, our guides to the site. Sarah Miller of the YouTube channel Azul Unlimited is joining us as well, hoping to see some sharks. We suit up in a nearby parking lot and then walk across the street to the beach. Pretty convenient.
Have a good dive.
After a pre-dive selfie, it's time to go look for sharks. As we descend into the murky water, it gets darker and colder. We arrive at 90 feet and the water's 54 degrees Fahrenheit. Now what? We just kind of hang around to see if a six-gill shows up, I guess. While we wait, I look for things to film, and I find a cute little ruby octopus. This is one of the most common octopus species in the northeastern Pacific. They don't get anywhere near the size of a giant Pacific octopus, but they're fun to watch and not afraid to hunt right in front of my lights. But within 10 minutes, a six-gill shows up. And it's not just a coincidence. Like the chimera, six-gills live in water deeper than scuba divers go, 600 to 3,000 feet below the surface. They've been seen by submersibles deeper than 8,000 feet. We're talking ultra deep. 90 feet is deep for divers, but that's very shallow for six-gills. Divers have seen six-gills here in only 90 feet of water, infrequently but regularly for decades. So there is something about this place that naturally encourages six-gills to visit. In order to make the encounters with divers more regular, local dive shops began to chum the water without feeding the sharks. The smell of food enticed them to come shallow more regularly. So now, when they hear scuba bubbles late in the day, they often come up to have a look. We have 2 sharks now. One is a male, as I can see from his claspers, and the other is a female. And they appear to be sniffing around looking for food. There are roughly 500 species of sharks in the world's oceans, and they all have 5 gill slits, except for one small taxonomic order called the Hexanchiformes. Within this group, there are only 7 species. 6 of them have 6 gill slits, and 1 has 7. This particular species is commonly known as the blunt-nosed 6-gill shark. Not a very flattering name for such a beautiful and graceful animal. Given that these sharks are both way bigger than the scuba divers watching them, you may wonder if we feel afraid that we might be the next meal. And the answer is of course not. These sharks live in deep water and feed on things that live in deep water, like chimeras and squid, and dead stuff that sinks to the bottom from above, like whale carcasses. They never see divers down there, so they're not looking at us thinking we look like something delicious. They're probably thinking we're weird sea creatures looking for the same food they are. Because Todd and I are on rebreathers, we can spend way more time with the sharks than everyone else. Atina, Kelly, and Sarah get low on air and depart. They arrive at the surface and have a head start on hot chocolate, while Todd and I spend another half hour with the sharks. But we do notice that without the scuba bubbles, the sharks seem less interested in staying around us. So that makes me think that they are definitely coming up when they hear the bubbles. Finally, Todd and I have to head back towards the surface before we end up with too much decompression time. We spend a few minutes doing deco at 20 feet, and then up to the surface. Our trip to Puget Sound started as a quest for the giant Pacific Octopus at a famous dive site. It ended up with multiple 6-gill sharks, proving that you just never know what you're going to see when you venture into the blue world. Hey everyone! We just released Call of the Dolphins, a new film for IMAX and giant screen theaters. Check the website to see if it's playing near you.